Hello, my name is SYAZWANI with RUSLI, and I will start a video critique about the story that my groupmate has been chosen, which is A Death and Faxes. The story is a short film that has been released in the year of 2022. So I will start with my part, which is the synopsis, and synopsis script, and the conclusions. Jim Shaffer is a 34-year-old man, and having found out that he died in a horrific accident and life went on without him, he is made to re-examine his place in the universe before he makes an important choice. Jim Shaffer awakened in a weird waiting room filled with eccentric-looking folks from many eras and walks of life. With no recollections of how or why he arrived, he approaches the receptionist, only to be ignored and ordered to wait. Jim, befuddled and defeated, attempts to exit through a neighboring door, but is halted in his track by an unseen force. He is eventually escorted to a small office and ordered to sit opposite the man who owned it. When it is revealed that he has died and must go through a bureaucratic process to select how he will spend his eternity. Steady Woolen, his death consultant, stands across from his desk and is just one case away from retiring. But this case is swiftly establishing itself as the most challenging of his career. We watch as these two come to a deadlock. One refuses to compromise out of pure stubbornness, and other decline to appease out of self-serving pragmatism. Jim is complete to share his deepest regret in life as he struggles to understand how it all over and how his entire life has been meaningless. Stanley has to be reminded what it is to be a person, since he played his part for much longer than it has really mattered and is entirely indifferent to the prospect of dying. No matter who wins, everyone loses, and that is life. A provocative perspective about death, bureaucratic, cold, and bizarre, but not exactly so surprising. A man in a waiting room, not knowing what to expect, where he is, or the manner to live. A consultant, very nearby his retirement, giving not exactly the expected answer. After the basic solve of enigma, first because it is hurry, second because it is the last day of interviews, not the last because all is so familiar, then the liberty who comes become true is the basic motive for a sort of small gesture of presumed kindness, like the stubbornness of his client, full of disillusions, looking for explanation and certitudes, tools of his selfishness. In short, a very nice film, beautiful act, and having the gift of inspired dialogue. Not the last, you feel yourself as a sort of witness of the conversations, or maybe a sort of fear of Miss Sheffer.
Hi, my name is AFKAR BASRI. My matrix number is 2022736619. The first critical evidence about communication on this video is firstly, non-verbal communication in terms of eye contact and facial expression between Mr. Jim Shaffer and the worker of counter service. Based on the eye contact and facial expression, it appears that the worker of counter service did not want to help Mr. Jim Shaffer since he was confused and did not know why he was there. The worker do not care and representative lack of interest in helping customers since he was preoccupied with computer work. was also evident in his eyes contact. Mr. Jim Schaefer was impatient as well as waiting for his name to be called. Therefore, it demonstrates the bad eyes contact and facial expression exist between customer and worker of counter service. While speaking with Mr. Jim Schaefer, the customer service representative eyes briefly concentrate on both Mr. Jim Schaefer and his computer, but did not fully look at Mr. Jim in depth while talking. The result in bad communication on between the two parties, even though it was his responsibility as the person in charge of the inquiry counter. The customer service display bad customer service behavior. He turned around and he made a noise that suggests that he was lethargic to deal with the hassle. Secondly, aggressive communication on style between Mr. Jim Schaefer and worker of counter service. During the conversation between Mr. Jim Schaefer and the worker of counter service, Mr. Jim Schaefer condition and facial expressions changed in a confused state because he did not know where he was when he asked the employee. He raised his voice while talking to the employee because he was not satisfied with the answer of the worker. The answer is, take a seat, please don't send for you shortly. And as I said, take a seat and we send for you shortly. The worker did not give the right and proper answer, so that Mr. Jim Schaefer felt angry and we also can see at Mr. Jim Schaefer's face that his facial expression was not satisfied. Then Mr. Jim Schaefer responded, I gonna leave. Then the worker asked him to do not leave, and then we'll send for you shortly. At this time, Mr. Schaefer raised his voice and said bad words. From there, we can see aggressive communication on between Mr. Jim Schaefer and the worker. See, this is because Mr. Jim can wait for his turn to be called and he doesn't even know why he is there. Yeah. Thirdly, a conversation between the young lady and Mr. Stanley Woolen and Mr. Jim Schaefer. It was positive politeness. The way young lady called Mr. Jim Schaefer name in a very kind manner, and she made pleasant facial expression. Despite not knowing Mr. Jim Schaefer, he had a very nice facial reaction while calling him by name. When her want to enter Mr. Stanley Woolen room, she knocked on Mr. Jim Woolen door before entering the room. Demonstrate positive courtesy and the proper etiquette to follow while entering someone else's room. Following that, the young lady and Mr. Stanley Woolen engaged in small talk about his impending retirement. From that, we can see positive politeness in young lady character. So this is a few conversation between young lady and Mr. Stanley. Young lady, hi Mr. Ruland, we have got your next card. You are here, Mr. Schaefer. So this is your last day. We are gonna have your retirement meal, Mr. Stanley Woolen. Oh, great, thank you. This woman concerns for Mr. Stanley Woolen retirement is evident there. His great speaking style and facial expression indicate that the people like him. From this part, we can see that the young lady was very polite, well talked with someone.
Assalamualaikum. My name is ERNA SALINA binti SULAIMAN. So here are my 3 points of video critique that I found in our chosen video. The first one is passive communication style. I found in the scene Mr. Stanley Woolen signed deeply when he found out that Mr. Jim Schaefer still did not know about his existence there. This can be read when the question about the death of dirt is answered with the facial expression of Mr. Jim Schaefer that looks really confused at that time. The facial reaction can be read and understood by Mr. Stanley, who still has not been given an explanation about how Mr. Jim get in that place. And then the side sound made by Mr. Stanley illustrate that he seems to be tired of his job that is done repeatedly every day, which can be seen in the behavior of Mr. Stanley, who remains calm by using reflective, non-energetic tone of voice with a calm facial expression when he answered the question of Mr. Jim Schaefer, who did not stop asking a question. This conversation could have gone more smoothly if Mr. Stanley had started the opening, the intro, and explained to Mr. Schaefer how he got there, so that can avoid the misunderstanding and confusion. The second point is aggressive communication style. I found this point at the scene Mr. Jim Schaefer that interrupt Mr. Stanley explanation that, by saying why that couldn't be right. That show Mr. Schaefer still cannot accept what happened. Mr. Jim said this because he was shocked to learn that he had died in a car accident, which caused him to become emotionally unstable. While get to know that he in a car accident and died. He even made a sad facial expression as if he couldn't accept the statement about the bad news. But Mr. Jim calmed down when he remembered his family, especially his wife. The third point is positive politeness strategies. I found this at the scene. Mr. Jim tells Mr. Stanley what he wants to achieve in his life, but he didn't have time to fulfill all his hopes. Among the hopes he wants to achieve are having children, wanting to visit Japan, and also wants to eat cheese stick, and also lastly he want to finish the story of breaking down. However, his facial expression looks sad, but he was still smiling when he said all that. Maybe Mr. Jim feels sad that his life has become to an end, but still smile because he may still be in a dilemma and doesn't believe, but at the same time, he slowly wants to accept everything that has happened in herself. So that of all my point. Thank you.